Hi, very warm welcome. It's Jim from Avstar. Today I just wanted to briefly, not in too much detail, just give you, a little glimpse into how wind turbines are made. If you remember, like CO2, when we looked into CO2, we realised that what the mainstream organisations were saying wasn't the complete accuracy of the truth. It's a little bit like the magnetic North Pole migration. That is the same. They do not give you the full implications behind it. I want to give you a good example today of just some of the processes behind wind turbines, how they're made and what's involved in making them. And I wanted to scroll down here because they claim that wind turbines are 100% clean energy. There we go, just there. I'll just outline that. 100% clean energy. But what they're not telling you is what goes into the making of a wind turbine. And it consists of a lot of concrete for the foundation. We're going to look at that. A lot of steel, and we'll leave the component that actually generates the energy, the turbine, out of the conversation, because I don't think we need to look into how much carbon is used in the process of that. But it's this, you can imagine it's a huge object, a lot of work, a lot of man hours, a lot of processes, heating up different materials, using resins, all sorts of processes that involve the use of CO2. And is the main point I wanted to just bring across to you guys. Now, they say that 100% clean. We've already discussed that they use a lot of concrete and a lot of steel, and I'll just read this from the foundation. Once the developers have selected the site for a land-based turbine tower, they level the ground and lay down concrete foundations which can use as much as 600 to 1,000 tons of concrete and 165 tons of steel. Now, anyone that's familiar with the process of making steel, you realise you have to put a lot of energy into that. Most of the energy that goes into the production of steel is gas driven. So they're burning lots of CO2 to produce 165 tons of that. But I want to concentrate on something else, the concrete. As you can see, it uses, some of these foundations can use 600 to 1,000 tons of concrete. Now just get your head around that. If a lorry can carry 20 tons of concrete, how many lorries would you need for 600 tons? How many lorries would you need for 1,000 tons? Yeah, it's a lot of lorry loads of concrete. But here's the point that I want to get at. In order to produce 1 cubic ton of concrete, you have to use up in that process of making the concrete 400 cubic kilograms of CO2. So you can just do the math yourself and work out how much CO2 is going into just the foundation of that wind turbine. A couple of other aspects before we look at one of the processes that is commonly talked about, which is the propeller blades or the rotor blades on there, because they're made out of carbon fibre. We'll talk just briefly about that and how the carbon fibre is made and whether it can be recycled at the end life. So just a couple of brief facts. First of all, the governments in the UK, and I know it's the same for a lot of other countries, have breached their own planning laws in the fact that these wind turbines are not a thing of beauty. In fact, they're a technical term here. What is the technical term? An impairment on open countryside. If you look into planning law and you want to build on Greenbelt, they're going to probably block you for it being an impairment on the open countryside, and therefore you would not get your planning. But the governments are allowed to do it and put these monstrosity turbines all over the countrysides. They cause a noise pollution. They cause immediate as soon as they're up and running, well, I'll just tell you, for the next 100 years, that concrete is still setting, and then for 100 years after, it then decays. But for at least 200 years, that concrete foundation is going to be in the soils, and that causes lots of problems. First of all, we don't know the full effects of over contaminating wide spaces of open countryside, pristine countryside. We don't know what the effects of the wildlife are, but we can certainly see, if we look at the bottom of a turbine blade as it's turning round at around 40 miles an hour, that you will find lots of dead birds that have come into collision with them. What they try and do is they try and fly under the rotor as it's turning, and not judging the speed correctly, they crash into the rotor, or the rotor crashes into the bird, and you'll find lots of dead birds under these rotors. So they're not very environmentally clean, and we've only looked at the fact that how much CO2 goes into actually producing 165 tons of steel, and how much CO2 goes into producing 600 to 1,000 tons of concrete. But there's also another environmental impact that has to go into the consideration. First of all, let's look at the rotor blades. They're made from carbon fibre and balsa wood. Most of that balsa wood comes from South Americas, and they are looking to replace the balsa wood with other materials similar to it. The reason why they use balsa wood is because it's very lightweight. The reason why they use carbon fibre is because it's very lightweight and very strong. So perfect combination of using these two products produces an efficient blade, according to whatever the design they've chose, but more so a very strong and durable blade that will withstand some extreme forces that are applied to it. But it's the environmental impact in the South Americas where this balsa wood is being harvested from, and the impacts on the environment there. But also it's the unrecyclable part of the wind turbine, and scientists at this present time haven't learned or discovered how to recycle carbon fibre other than mix it with other epoxies in a shredded form, mould that into another form, and use it in that respect. That could be motorway barriers, dual carriageway barriers. What they've done, basically shredded it up into various sizes and then added more epoxy to it and set it in a mould, and then that is obviously used for various other things. But other than that, they can't undo carbon fibre at the moment. So what is carbon fibre, and where does it come from? Well, you might be surprised to find out that carbon fibre comes from propane and ammonia, and you mix these two together in a process, and you get another product, and I can't for the life of me pronounce it. It's acronyl or acronyl nitrile. Okay, let's just leave it acronyl. Right, you can look it up. I'm just butchering the word, but what this process is, what they do is they mix these two, ammonia and propane, which is obviously another bad part of this industry, because propane's coming from the petrochemical industry, which is producing a lot of CO2 in the process of making propane, and also in the process of making ammonia. So you can imagine how many wind turbines are at the present in the world, and how many millions and millions of tons of CO2 have gone into this supposedly 100% clean energy production, when already we're talking about probably billions of tons of CO2, damage to the agricultural land, an impairment on open countryside, and an environmental catastrophe when it comes to getting rid of these propellers, and they do have a lifespan. But what the process is, I'll go into, if you want me to, explaining the carbon fibre process and how it's made. But basically, once you've got your woven carbon fibre, we have jumped from the very beginnings. We've missed out a lot of detail, and the reason for that is I don't want to keep you bogged down on just how carbon fibres made. I just want to get to the point. So we end up with a material, a carbon white woven fibre, which is a polymer, and it's mixed with epoxy resins to harden it. So you've got something that looks like a t-shirt, very floppy. You can cut it with scissors or a knife, shape it, and then through a few of the processes of running it through temperatures at first of all 200 to 300 degrees, and then again later on in another process to create the crystal structure, which is very close to graphene or graphite. It's what they're doing by adding it, putting it in the oven at 1300 degrees Celsius, is they're making a new crystal structure, which is the similar structure to a diamond or graphite, which is one of the hardest structures or crystal lattice structures that we've got on the planet. And then they'll spin it up on a bobbin wheel. That bobbin wheel will then be woven into different weaves, and you'll end up with a fabric of carbon fibre. But it will only get hard when it's mixed with the epoxy resins at the end. So the problem is when we come to the end life of a propeller on a wind turbine, you can't take the epoxies back out of that carbon fibre. Scientists haven't discovered a way of doing that at this present time. So what do you do with this byproduct then? Now, which is come to the end of the life of a wind turbine, you've got these propellers, what do you do with them? Well, we've heard stories of them just being buried on landfills, or chopped down, remoulded, or reconstituted, but still the problem, the energy has gone into producing them. They now have no function. So I really struggle to see how these government organisations can claim that these wind turbines are 100% clean, when just to create them is very unenvironmentally friendly when it comes down to CO2 alone. So if you want me to talk a little bit more about carbon fibre, maybe tomorrow in a video we can have a look in more detail at carbon fibre. And if you want to do a bit more research on wind turbines and how not so clean they are for the environment, one website which you will find some information on is Union of Concerned Scientists. I'm sure if you type in on your Google search bar, you'll come across this web page that we've been looking at, and you can read in more detail. But I'm just saying they've been a bit biased in the way they've explained it here, because they're saying it's clean, and you find that a lot about all these industries. And the reason why I wanted to bring this to your attention is because there's a lot of information that gets missed out. And when we compare this information to CO2 and the magnetic North Pole, it's all the same. They have glossed over the main parts and left the important parts out, the detailed parts out, which obviously they don't want to talk about, because if they did, then the whole process of wind turbines, and it's the same for solar panels, same story there. Impairment on open countryside, what do you do with them when they come to the end life, and they haven't got a continuous life cycle. They will come to the end, and then what is being done to reconstitute some of those materials? Well, as you know, in this video alone, it's not just as they say it. There is always two sides to the coin, and I've come up with just a few reasons why I don't think that it is 100% clean and renewable as they are making out. So hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a bit of a difference from the normal topic of what we talk about, but I think it's just a good idea to clear up some points and myths about these things. Guys, you have an amazing day. Take care of your families. I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.